I'm RJ Nestor, business executive and productivity coach. In this video, I'm going to talk about setting up recurring actions in Roam Research. Recurring actions don't come in Roam Research out of the box, and that challenge of figuring out how do I set that up is one of the things that I think prevents a lot of people from taking Roam on as their place to manage tasks and projects. Early on, when I started using Roam in March of 2020, one of the first things I did was bring in my task management system that I'd been running in Todoist. And so over the months and year and a half, I've spent a lot of time figuring out how do I manage recurring actions. And it's gotten less and less manual and more automatic. And now with the release of SmartBlocks version 2 by David Vargas, I think this problem is really solved for good. This is a very simple system. It's very lightweight. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use it. Now, if you look in the description, you'll find timestamps for everything that you need in order to do this. I'm going to keep the video relatively short, but still I want you to be able to find what you need when you need it. Do note, for this system to work, you need the SmartBlocks version 2 extension installed. I'll send the link in the description there to the video where I show you how to do that. Optionally, you need to have Roam 42 installed as well, because I use a feature of that called Workbench. That's not required, but if you want to do a couple of the extra things, you'll want that to be there. So in this video, I'm going to first show you how I use my recurring action system so you can see how simple it truly is. Then I'll show you how to install it, and I'll give you the files that you need in order to do that. So I've created the SmartBlocks, and I have the JSON files that you can import into Roam to just bring the whole system in for you. And then I'll show you just a glimpse of how it actually works live in my own productivity system, so you can see that as well. So I think this will be helpful for you. Use the timestamps below to navigate, and let's launch right on in. First, I'm going to show you how this system works. Everything runs built around this one smart block called Recurring Actions. I put it on its own page just for the sake of simplicity and knowing exactly where it is, called Recurring Actions Smart Block. And the only thing in it right now, it'll stay at the top forever, is a thing that says date basis and then no block output. And I'm not going to get into the weeds on exactly how this works, because the whole point is I want you to be able to do this without having to completely understand it. As you use it, you'll understand SmartBlocks better, but you don't have to understand SmartBlocks to make this system work. But just know that this means that whatever page, whatever daily notes page, what the D&P stands for, whatever daily notes page you put this on, it's going to act like today equals that daily notes page. So when it's scanning through all of the various actions to determine what should be done today, it's going to say the daily notes page is today. What that means is you can build tomorrow's page while it's still today in real life. So you go to that daily notes page, you run this, you're going to get tomorrow's tasks, the one that should be on that page. Okay? So let me show you this first. There are actually two ways to do this, and I prefer the second slightly, but this is a nice way for you to get acquainted with this. So I'm going to show you that I have systems here that allow me to call up and add daily, weekly, monthly, or annual tasks. SmartBlocks use the code XX to trigger them. So when I hit XX and start typing the word add, you'll see I have annual, daily, monthly, and weekly tasks. If I click Add Daily Task, it's going to give you ask for an input that's going to say, what is the name of the task? So we'll say this is an everyday task, okay? And you can see it creates a little bit of code here. If day of week is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, then it will run this, meaning no matter which day of the week it is, it's going to run that every day. That's what we want for that task. Let's imagine now that we have a weekly task. So I can say here XX, add weekly task. It's going to now ask me what day or days of the week. And in this format, Monday equals 1 and Sunday equals 7. So 1 is Monday, 2 is Tuesday, 3 is Wednesday, and so forth. If this task needs to be done on more than one day of the week, you can enter more than one day of the week, just separate it with a comma. So since I'm going to be running this for you to see it on the tomorrow page and also the Wednesday page, let me show you, we'll call this a Tuesday thing here. And what's the name of the task? This is a Tuesday task. And for the sake of it, I'll create another one here, add weekly task, and we'll do it for a 3. So this is Wednesday. This is a Wednesday task, okay? So now we have daily tasks, a Tuesday, and a Wednesday. But of course, we can do monthly as well. So let's add a monthly task, add monthly task. This one says what day or days of the month, 1 through 31, and if you want more than one, separate it with a comma. Let's have a little fun with this one, and let's create one here that's for both 28ths and 29ths, because those are the next 2 days. So if this is a thing that happens on the 28th and the 29th, this occurs on 28ths and 29ths is what we'll call that task. And then we'll make one, another monthly task here that only occurs on 29ths. Okay, this is a 29ths task. And then before we leave that, let's create an annual task as well. So XX add annual task. What date or dates of the year, format as a 2-digit month / 2-digit day. And this is the way SmartBlocks are set up. I don't believe there's a way to change that setting, but just know it is month and then day. So apologies to those of you who think day then month. And just like the others, you can separate with commas if there is more than one. So let's say something that's going to occur tomorrow, and let's say this is a September 28th task, and then we'll make one more, XX add annual task for the 29th. This is a September 29th task. Okay, so now all of those are now here directly in that smart block. So if I go to the tomorrow page, the 28th, and I run XX, the recurring actions smart block, everything that would have been related to today, to this day. And everyday tasks I'm going to have every day, something that happens every Tuesday, something that occurs on both 28ths and 29ths, and something that occurs only on 28ths will all show up here. Likewise, if I run that recurring action smart block on the 29th, you'll see the same thing. So recurring actions. Here now I have the everydays, the Wednesday, the thing that occurs on both 28ths and 29ths, and then the thing that's a 29th, and the thing that is specifically a September 29th. Only those and no others. So that's how that works. Now let me really quickly show you, and this is where things get kind of fun. Let me show you, I'm going to delete these for the sake of clarity. Then I'm going to go back to the recurring actions smart block and delete all of those. Except for not the date basis at the top. We need that. And I'm actually going to leave here. I'm going to go back to today's page, the 27th, where you'll see in a moment where I imported this into this. So let's move to a block here. And let's imagine that I'm just taking notes, or I'm working in a project, or I'm doing something like that. I don't actually have to go to the recurring action smart block to create a recurring task. Let's imagine I want to do something similar to what I did before. Let's add a daily task from here. What is the name of the task? This is a daily task, we'll call it. And I have now set up in here through Workbench, which is a function of Rome 42's extension. I can now hit, while I'm in this block, can hit Control semicolon, and you see recurring action is up there at the top of the page. Choose recurring action, and that will be moved to my recurring action smart block. It's right there, but it stays linked on the daily notes page, or rather linked from whatever place you sent it from. So this is particularly powerful. Say you have a weekly task that is part of a project. You're working in that project. You can create the task right in the project and then send it to the recurring action smart block. So it'll now function over there, but the reference stays active or stays living in the project. So you know that the task is there and you know it's happening. If you ever need to find it, it's easy to find because it is still connected to the context where you created it. Now, worth noting, it will only work if you send it to the recurring action smart block. So if you start doing this, make sure you don't forget that control, semicolon, and recurring actions. And let me just show you, just to show you the rest of how this works. Let's create a couple of other things. Let's create a weekly task. Let's do it on Tuesdays. This is a Tuesday task. Then let's create a monthly task. And we'll say this happens on 28ths. This is a 28ths task. And then let's create an annual task that only occurs on September 28th. And we'll say this is a September 28th task. In order for this to work, I have to now highlight these three. And so you can do this more than once, which is kind of nice if you're creating a few at the same time, especially when you're setting up the smart block for the first time. Control semicolon, and then recurring action. And now they are all living, oops, wrong direction. They're all living in the recurring action smart block. And when I go to the 28th and I run the recurring action smart block, they will all show up because they're there. And if I were to run the 29th one, only one of them is going to show up because I only created one that time, and that was a daily task. None of the rest will show up on the 29th because I didn't create that for this. So coming up next, I'm going to show you how to install the files you need to do this. What you just watched is literally how it works. It's not hard. I include all the things that you need to be able to do that from scratch, essentially. So it's all done. You don't have to create anything, and you can just start adding your recurring actions to the recurring actions smart block. You only need 5 things for this recurring actions workflow to function. 2 of them are the SmartBlocks version 2 and Rome 42 extensions from romejs.com. In the description of this video is a link that will take you to another video to show you how to install those in your Rome graph. The other 3 are JSON files. JSON files are a file format that you can import things directly into Rome, and then they'll show up in your graph just exactly the way they show up in mine. There's a link in the description that will take you to these 3 JSON files, and this is where you'll find them. They're in my course, my AP productivity course. You don't need to sign up for the course or anything or pay anything, though. This is just in a free preview page, so you'll be able to access these there. All you need to do is download these 3 files and then import them into your Rome graph. And then everything you need, the SmartBlocks version 2, the Rome 42, and these 3 files, and what they bring into your Rome graph, everything you need to run this recurring actions workflow will be there. So let me show you how that works. I'm going to download these 3 files. I'm just downloading them to my downloads folder. It doesn't matter where you download them as long as you know where they are. And now I'm going to move over to my Rome graph. And when I get here, I'm going to go to the upper right-hand corner here. You can see the 3 dots. I'm going to choose Import Files. You see it says Import Markdown or JSON. Browse. There they are. Select those 3 files. Click Open. That's going to bring you now, it shows you the file name, it shows you what the page name will be, don't mess with any of that. It shows you what the JSON format looks like. It won't look like that in your graph when you're done. And it gives you the option to unclick, but leave them all clicked because we want to import all 3. We'll click Import 3 Files, and when you do so, there's a record made on the Daily Notes page for today that shows that you have imported these files and these pages. So if I click on the Smart Block, there you can see here it is waiting for you with the date basis up top, like I showed you earlier in the video. If I click on Workbench, this is the Workbench inbox that you need that allows you to send things to your smart block from working elsewhere. You don't need to mess with this. In fact, don't mess with this because none of this needs to be adjusted. This will work just fine right out of the import. And then the system components, this contains the other smart blocks, the daily, weekly, monthly, and annual tasks, as well as if you want to come to this page, I gave you a button here. I gave you a smart block to create the button, so you can just create it wherever you want it. And I also gave you the code for if you want to run the smart block within another smart block, you can put this command within the smart block and it will do that. So that's the entire thing. That's downloading and then importing everything that you need. Of course, the other video will show you how to do the 2 extensions you need, but everything you need to make this function very smoothly. So you can see it is actually quite simple. Now I'm going to give you just a very brief taste of how this functions live in my own Roam research graph. I've scaled it down a little bit because there's a lot going on in my graph. It makes good sense to me, but it might be a little bit chaotic to someone who doesn't understand what I've got going on. But this is basically it. I just trimmed it down a little bit from this is how it works. I'll run my morning routine smart block on this page. Normally, as you'll see in a moment, I run that from a button, but just so you can see that happen. So you can see everything that I have as a daily task ran when I ran that morning routine. So I had some code in the middle of my morning routine that actually allows me to run this. Let me show you what that code looks like. So in my morning routine smart block here, it literally is a little tiny bit of code that says smart block recurring actions. And you noticed that earlier in the video I showed you that, it's included in your JSON files there. So that means that in the middle of this smart block, it's going to run that recurring action smart block. And this is what I get there. So a couple things to note here. This is our farm box. So I am going to note that I need to do that after 9 a.m. That's something I do every Monday. I create a new music worship aid every Monday. Obviously, I do my Monday morning self-coaching every Monday. Put out recycling tonight is actually every 2 weeks. So I just have a little note here of when the next one is, and I update that when the time comes along. I can delete that one because that's not today. And then I have a couple of daily tasks here, a couple of reminders that kind of keep me working on things as I go. So that's how that recurring tasks works there. I actually, as I told you a moment ago, in my part of my evening routine, I have a thing that allows me to set up tomorrow's agenda. When I click this, it's actually going to run my recurring actions, or excuse me, my morning routine smart block, which includes my recurring action smart block, on tomorrow's page. So let me click this real quick. And as it runs to set up tomorrow, it now has given some tasks about what I need to do when I'm going over there to set up tomorrow. Normally what I would do would be open that in the sidebar and then just go to tomorrow. And as you can see here now, I accidentally closed the whole thing. As you can see here now, I have, in the midst of my today tasks, the things that I need to do tomorrow. A couple more daily things, a couple of things that happen a few times a week that I have there, processing books and organizing my office space. I just moved my office. So there I want to, every so often just take a little bit and process a few boxes. Okay. Likewise, end of that day, I would click this button again, and it would also then run that smart block for me on Wednesday. And as you see on Wednesday, as part of my things, I still have some daily tasks here, but I also have now a weekly task, and I have another weekly task, and I have another weekly task. And everything that has anything to do, that needs to happen on that Wednesday, whether it be a Wednesday task or a 29th task or a September 29th task or a daily task, all of those things are going to show up in that smart block. I hope that was useful for you. If it was, subscribe to this channel. Also, I have a course, a live cohort course called AP Productivity that I launch from time to time as I film this. The next one coming up will be October 18th of 2021. And that course is all about how you can build your systems in Roam research that will help you be both more productive, but also open up that bandwidth so you can think about the bigger picture in your life. So we're not just talking about, how to deal with the daily grind, but we're talking about how to systematize those daily routines, those weekly routines, those things so that you can begin to see how they serve your bigger picture and where you truly want to be. If that sounds like something that would be of interest to you, I put the link to the sign up for AP Productivity down in the course or down in the video description here. And if we're in between cohorts at the time, there'll be an email sign up there so you can be reminded when the registration launches.